Welcome to another edition of Lakeville City Council Wrap-Up. During this program, we will highlight the agenda items presented to the Lakeville City Council at their October 21st, 2013 meeting. First highlighted item on the agenda is item number 5A, Police Department Monthly Report. And to give the information regarding this agenda item is Interim Chief of Police John Kornman.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. For the month of September 2013, our monthly report. And forgive me, this is my first time using PowerPoint up here. All right. Just a reminder, our mission statement in partnership with the community that we serve, we are dedicated to reducing crime, problem solving, and ensuring the quality of life in Lakeville. A little bit on our numbers. Obviously, homicides, none. And criminal sexual conducts, we're down slightly from last year, 3. We did have 2 robberies in the month of September. One of those was the Hideaway robbery up on Cedar Avenue. The other one was a robbery after a football game where a young man was basically rolled on the way home from the game. Nothing lost, but it did go down in statistics as a robbery. Both cases are currently being investigated, and the one up at the Hideaway, suspects, and we're hoping we are going to clear that case very soon. Domestic assaults, again, this year up slightly. Other assaults, again, slightly down from last year. For 2013, we had 61 crashes, and I want you to notice that we had 0 seatbelt citations. I saw a statistic this week come out. 94% of the residents in the state of Minnesota are now wearing their seatbelts. It's at a record level, so I am guessing you're going to see that number remain low. I believe Lakeville is generally higher than the state average. So again, that seatbelt citation one, you might continue to see 0s or very low numbers in that category. We saw 556 traffic stops. That's down from last year's 827. Medical emergencies notably are up significantly in September of 2013. One thing to point out, our medical responses to some of our facilities that generally we go to a lot, such as Highview Hills, actually have been down significantly. I want to say several of us had recalled not going there for several months, so we actually had to stop in there and ask, did they have a policy change? What we found out, no, currently everything's just fine, no policy changes. They were just happy to see us for other reason other than medicals. So we have been to medicals other places in the city at a much higher rate this year. Alarm calls continue to be up. Suspicion calls down, obviously with 165 down from 201. One of the other things I wanted to put in here, we also took this week, in the last couple weeks preparing for this report, to evaluate our other calls, the calls that you don't normally see. We had 911 hang-ups. Just for council's information, we responded to 297 of those in 2012, 262 in the month of September 2013. The reason that's important is that's a 2-officer call a lot of times. If you think about what it takes to just send 2 officers to what is usually a mistake, it does take up significant quantities of time. Assist Other Agency, or AOA, you have up there 53 and 54 respectively over the last year and this year. Again, those are calls out to the freeway. We may generate 1 number, but expend 3 and 4 officers' time on crashes and things like that, assisting other agencies, also assisting the Dakota County Sheriff's Office, Burnsville and or Apple Valley Police Departments. Civil assists, again, another call is up significantly and does use a large amount of time. That may be assisting someone move out of a home and providing assistance while just exactly that, mediating civil disputes. Again, property crimes for the year, again, looking at burglaries. Burglaries are down compared to 2012. Property damages are down. Vehicle thefts down by 1. Thefts over 500 up slightly. Thefts under 500 are down. Shoplifting up slightly. And again, frauds are down. So again, a lot of our property crimes for 2013 are down. But the calls we are seeing, is such as the fraud calls, do again take up large amounts of time. Street crimes unit activity. I can't give you exciting pictures this month, but what I can tell you is street crimes is out there doing some excellent work. What you're looking at in the photograph there is a simple baggie of meth that was found in a street contact, simply doing what street crimes is out there to do, and that's to make contact with individuals that are creating calls for service. The individual that had this bag of meth in his possession has been a frequent flyer, racking up lots of miles in the last 60 days, causing significant amounts of work for us. So we were very happy that he had warrants out for arrest, and the street crimes unit went and tracked him down. And when they did arrest him, he was polite enough to have that in his pocket. So he had another charge in addition to that. The one sentenced down below is a similar one in another mobile home park community nearby. Again, a street contact resulted in an arrest for meth. So the two street crimes officers are out there this month especially taking care of business and doing what they're out there to do, which is try to lower the calls for service for the patrol division. Traffic officer activity for 2013. The photograph there, we heard from the residents of Queen Anne at the last meeting. We continue to monitor the south entrance to Queen Anne, and we would like to remind residents that that is in fact private property. It is not a through street. And I brought along a photograph of the efforts they have taken, yet people continue to drive around the barricades. And there's another city-applied barricade that would be further south from this photograph. Again, the list is long. That we have a new officer working the traffic enforcement unit this month. Officer Jessica Swanner took over after the school resource officer spent the summer doing those duties. And I assure you, Jessica will be out there again working diligently. The numbers for the traffic unit for this month: 43 citations, 143 CAT incidents, usually that's traffic stops, and 3 arrests. One of them was a very significant possession of marijuana, large quantity of marijuana, and that resulted in some significant charges. For patrol, I believe you're all well aware, but our primary patrol issue for the month of September has been traffic. I-35 construction has caused us some great challenges. The reopening Dodd Boulevard relieved many of those challenges, and the start of the school year with the traffic issues around the schools have kept us busy. Another issue that continues to cause us a great deal amount of work: mental health and welfare calls. You've seen some of those in the breezes. They are numerous as of late. They are slightly down from last year, but one of the things, again, they're long in duration. And the calls that we have been having have required significant amounts of resources. Again, there was one last week that required every officer on the shift and kept us busy for most of the evening, most of the nighttime hours, looking for that person. They can require follow-up by investigators during the day, so they do continue to impact us. We are happy to report, though, the positive outcomes on all of these calls thus far this year, which is great. Roundabout operations, I'm spoiling my October report a little bit. Thought you'd all want to know. We did have 3 roundabout crashes thus far, all of them extremely minor. One of them, an individual failed to notice the yield sign and drove over the yield sign up at the new roundabout. In the roundabout, a trailer bumped a car. That's the one where the individual got out of his truck and said he was going to be right back, walked back to his truck to get his information, and just kept on going. We did locate him, though, and got his side of the story. The other one was at 205th and Kenrick, and that was a 2-vehicle crash inside the loop itself, and the actual cause of that was undetermined. We're not sure which driver was at fault, as both drivers were in the loop. Getting the unofficial opinion of the officers working, what do they think of the roundabouts? For the day officers, they really keep the traffic moving. The lines that we used to see at Highview and Dodd aren't there anymore, and they're very happy about the reduced congestion in the morning. So I'm hearing very positive things about the ability of the new roundabout at Highview and Dodd to move traffic. Investigations, I don't have any photos, and I can't provide specific details on this case. It is not a Lakeville, or they're not Lakeville cases. They wound up being 2. Again, I put it out in breezes, but I just wanted you aware that Lakeville detectives played a very significant role and assisted greatly to the Burnsville Police Department and the Rosebud Police Department. Lakeville detectives recovered significant pieces of evidence in both those cases. We actually assisted in the capture of Lakeville detective was the actual person that took the suspect into custody after a I believe it was a short vehicle chase followed by a short foot pursuit up along 46 near Diamond or near Shannon Parkway in the city of Rosemount. Again, I received a phone call from Chief Giesecke of the Burnsville Police Department expressing his gratitude to our detectives. And again, we put in a lot of work on that, and it was good to see positive outcomes on that investigation. I was very happy to see that we played such a significant role in that case, or those cases. Again, credit card fraud, as I indicated before, continues to be a major area of work. We have 5 computer forensics exams in progress. The primary focus of those, child pornography, sad to say. You may have saw in the news, we did assist the St. Paul Police Department, the FBI, and the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension in executing a search warrant up near 170th and Pilot Knob Road. Long guns were recovered from a Lakeville burglary. This was a FBI and a BCA case, therefore we did let them handle the press on that incident, and we were there simply to provide assistance with them in our city. Last, we'd just like to pay tribute to James Jensen, whose funeral was this past week, officer number 4811. Personally, this is one of my favorite pictures of Jimmy. I know there are more official looking pictures, but for a patrol officer, to me, this sums it all up. And I know council's familiar with him, but again, we will miss Jimmy dearly.
Next highlighted item on the agenda is item number 5B, Parks and Recreation Department Monthly Report. And to give the background information on this agenda item is Parks and Recreation Director Brett Altergott.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Tonight I'm presenting the September 2013 Parks and Recreation Report. We'll start at the Arts Center. This year we had the Art Festival on September 21st and 22nd. It's not an official number, but we're estimating that we had over 10,000 in attendance this year. That's based upon what the exhibitors see and what others who have attended the event over the years have seen in numbers. So the eye test tells us this has been one of our best attended, if not the best attended art festival that we've had at the Arts Center. And along with that, we had, on top of it, we had beautiful weather, but we also had the additional space on the south lawn. We were able to use that whole south side this year. Really made a difference, and the committee, the Friends of the Arts Center, were very, very pleased with it. Of course, that festival does not go off without the help of Shelley Carney and the many, many, many hours of work that she puts in, along with over 100 volunteers that help us out to pull off that event. So to them, we give a lot of thanks. Also, we had art demos throughout the weekend, and the kids' tent was extremely busy. I know I came home with 4 pictures that are now in my hallway from the kids' area. Phenomenal area. It allows the families to go through and look at all the artists' work, and I can tell you that it does phenomenal with that. You can keep those little kids busy. The community art project this year was unique. It was a Sunday afternoon by George Seurat. But what's unique about it, and I had to write this down, but it's pointillism, which is a technique in which a small distinct dots are applied in patterns to form an image. So what you see there is actually, that's one of our exhibitors who helped with our community art project, and that's what he does is pointillism. And they're using a pencil eraser and taking a single color and putting a dot to form the picture. It's very time consuming, very detail oriented. It's going to be a phenomenal piece. It will be up soon. They're completing it at the Arts Center now. And should be up within the next couple weeks. Tom was telling me today he's looking for a place to hang it. So in the next couple weeks, please go to the Arts Center and check out that piece. It is a very interesting piece. Also this month we have the Minnesota Contemporary Quilters exhibit. Again, it runs for another couple of weeks. If you haven't seen that as well, when you go to check out the pointillism piece, check out the quilts in the exhibit area. On the park maintenance side of things, prior to the art festival, in the picture that you see, we had a sidewalk put in, and the Friends of the Arts Center donated the landscaping, the arborvitaes, and there's some Carl Forster grass back in there. As you can see, just the little bit that's there now did soften the utilities that you would see from the road, and as you walk by, and in the years to come, that'll enclose and it'll hide that stuff, but still giving it enough room for anyone to work in there and or not disrupt the flow of air into the HVAC system. Also, we continued the improvements of the steam and shot infield. improvements. They did some of that along with the dugouts. We worked with the LBA, the Lobos, to make that happen, which was great. As it rained over the last few weeks, areas that were traditionally wet in that area, there's not the puddling, specifically down first baseline. If you drove by, you'd always see them pumping that area out. That is done. And then we had the dedication for the dugouts. And there was a picture in the paper for that as well. Again, those were all done through the LBA. We provided some assistance and restoration in those areas, but it was their contractors who performed the work. Again, you can see it do a phenomenal improvement at that facility. At King, we finished up some projects. Remember the batting cages were put in earlier in the spring, the 4. We finished some retaining walls that needed to be done. We renovated fields 5, 7, and 9 with a contractor. Those fields were in rough shape and now are much better. One of the big things we did is we took out the grass between home plate and the pitcher's mound. That's usually a high maintenance area. They use it for batting practice. They move the screen out and they throw from there. Well, that beats down that grass over the course of the year with how many practices and games and different things we have going on. Found by taking that out, we've saved on maintenance quite a bit. And you can see that we can continue to water those areas. Park maintenance, also the STS installed drain tile at High Point Crossing and Bassett Park Playgrounds. Again, it's a great use for STS crews. It's a low cost for us per hour to do that. And it was done during the day. This is after school started that we had them come in and perform that work and get that drain tile in. Also, we trimmed willows at Casperson Park. Was there the day that happened. Big improvement, being able to see the lake again. The willows will become invasive at some point, and periodically we go in and we'll trim those back. And then we resurfaced 2 courts at Foxborough and Rolling Oaks. It was the basketball courts. And again, by doing that, we protect our investment. Courts should be resurfaced approximately every 7 years. And if you keep up on that, you extend the life of that asphalt in that court. You can probably do it like 3 to 4 times before you have to redo the court completely. Also want to remind people of our dog ordinance. Keep your dog on a leash. I know we have the friendly, the obedient dog ordinance, but remember there's a lot of users out in the park, and to keep your dog on that leash, and also pick up after your dog. We've had numerous complaints, not only from residents, but our mowing crew within the last month of the season about finding fecal matter in the playing fields. You know, anyone who has kids who play soccer, football, baseball knows that that's the last thing that you want your kids stepping in. It's hard enough to keep up with the goose, the Canada goose. So if you could pick up after your dogs, that'd be greatly appreciated. On the recreation side, Tiny Tots Soccer, we had 53 participants, and this year it was on a Sunday evening, which was new for us. It was at 6 o'clock on Sundays in September. We were a little worried about the numbers, but as you can see, we took 3 more than what we advertised. So we were able to more than fill the program, and we were able, because of the number, to take those extra 3 kids and give them the program. My daughter was in the program. It was phenomenal, and we were, again, pleasantly surprised on a Sunday night with that. Also, due to the popularity, we added tennis in the fall. So that, again, is a growing sport, and a lot of the fall you'll see around with the U.S. Open as they go back to school. Also in record, we had 190 attend the 23rd annual Whodunit hike. I think that's a phenomenal number. It was a beautiful day out there. And as well as we had nature programs and bird banding at Ritter Farm. So we had just under 300 people participate in programs throughout the month out at Ritter. Revenues for the year through September, comparing it to last year, were slightly behind where we were at this point a year ago, but we had a slow start, if you remember, in May. We had a lot of program cancellations through April and May that we traditionally would have had. So we've made up for the late start to our summer. And we are actually up 20 rentals as compared to a year ago. Seniors, they had their fashion show and tea party on September 13th, and flu shots on September 19th. But as you can imagine, our numbers are declining in our flu shot because they are offered absolutely everywhere. But we still have enough people showing up at our facility to where we feel it's necessary for us to offer those flu clinics. Oh, we also had 21 new members in September, bringing our total to 947 for our year, which compared to last year, 811. So we're up compared to, and a lot of that is the registration. Remember, we don't follow the traditional calendar. May 1st, and so we're getting those people to renew earlier in our calendar year versus waiting. And on this September 27th, we had our Heritage Center first anniversary celebration. Senior Center put that on, and I believe Knights of Columbus served the lasagna. We had 187. It was packed in there. It was very happy to see that, and I know it was stressful for Linda because she was like, where am I going to put 187 people? But made it work out, and it was a great event. Also, the seniors and the Historical Society hosted the first annual Heritage Center Golf Classic on September 16th at Crystal Lake. We raised $11,179 towards repayment of the loan. Phenomenal event. We had 80 players. And what you see before you is those are the 71 sponsors that those individuals that were on that committee were able to get. You can see it's a large list, way too large to read this evening. You'll recognize a lot of them. We thank them for their generosity in helping with the event and making a successful event. And Wally Potter, who was the chair of the event, is already booked Tuesday, September 16th, 2014 for next year. It was such a successful event, he wants to do it again. Also with the senior, we look at a Heritage Center, we're at currently, the fundraising goal is $277,860. To date, we've raised $178,420, leaving us with $99,440 yet to be paid back on the loan. So we've crossed a major barrier, and we're gonna have another major influx. The auction ends tomorrow, so if you're still looking for items, the auction is still open, and you can get to it by going to the city website. As for project updates, the Kenrick Avenue Trail, the picture on your left, sorry for the quality, it was the night before paving, just to kind of show before. You're looking, standing in Merrick's parking lot looking north. And then we had some in-progress photos of the trail being laid. And on the one to the right is looking at the same pathway, but looking south towards Merrick. That trail, they did all that work. It's been paved from 205th to 195th and down into Casperson. So that first stretch has been paved. Now they're going to start working on the lake portion. The helicals for the boardwalk should have been delivered today. You should see sheet piling beginning within the next week. With that, when work is going on during the day, Kenrick will be down to one lane, will be controlled by flagmen on each end of the project area. So as they're working in that lake area and building our retaining walls, again, Kenrick Avenue will be down to one lane during the workday. At night, we'll go back to open. We also want to remind people that we do, during the workday, have a reduced speed limit of 40 miles per hour along the construction area. This one happened last week, Wednesday night, between Wednesday night and Thursday morning.
Oh my God.
Vandals got out onto the Casperson Park soccer fields. We have rocks that were supposed to prevent them from getting in there. Some of the rocks were too low for if a truck were a little bit higher. Had the clearance, they got out there and tore it up. It's sad to see, and we're asking if anybody has any information regarding this vandalism to please call our police department. This is one of those things that we see, and it literally makes you sick when you see that. The only fortunate thing we had going for us, we didn't have any soccer or anything going on at the time. The seasons are wrapped up, so we're able to get in there right away and perform some restoration. And that number for the police department is 985-2800 if you have any information. Upcoming events, October 26th, which is Saturday night, we have the Haunted Forest at Steve Michaud Park. So if you're looking for something to do, it is from 5:30 to 8:30. Register for Fall Recreation Arts Center programs is ongoing, and we're seeking volunteers for Santa's Secret Store. And anyone can register or volunteer by giving us a call at the Park and Recreation Department offices. Also, at the Arts Center coming up, we have Monroe Crossing Concert, Children's Letters to God, the musical, and Trials, Tribulations, and Christmas Decorations, Expressions Community Theater. With that completes my monthly report for September, and I'll stand for any questions.
Next highlighted item on the agenda is item number 7, resolution approving feasibility report and calling a public hearing on the 2014 street reconstruction project. And to begin a series of presentations, Here's Public Works Director Chris Petrie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. As always, my pleasure to be here with you this evening. And tonight we're asking the council to consider the resolution accepting the feasibility report for the 2014 street reconstruction project, and also calling for a public hearing in November. With that, we do have a presentation that will walk you through highlighting some of the findings of the feasibility report. First of all, the project location for our 2014 street reconstruction project is again in the Valley Park area, generally speaking, which is east of Cedar Avenue, north for the most part of Dodd Boulevard, and south of County Road 46. You can see we do have two areas. The majority of it is in a triangular area east of Flagstaff Avenue and north of Dodd. But there are two other portions. One is just west of Flagstaff Avenue and south of Dodd, as well as the last one is kind of down in the far bottom corner that you see in front of you off of 170th Street. Project costs and financing. The estimated total project cost for the 2014 street reconstruction project is $10,236,000. Project funding breaks down, you can see on the screen in front of you, city CIP funds, about $5.15 million. Utility funds, which would relate specifically to water and sanitary sewer improvements, is just over $2 million. And then special assessments to the benefiting property owners is just over $3 million. With that, I'm going to ask our project manager, Monica Heil, to come up and walk through the next few slides. With that, Ms. Heil.
Thank you, Mr. Petrie. Mr. Mayor, members of the council. A little bit of background on the project area. Similar to previous street reconstruction projects, we do have some utility components involved with this particular street improvement project. Water main improvements are proposed within a neighborhood that contains Cedar Highlands 1st and 5th editions. This is adjacent to the area that was reconstructed in 2012, which also had a significant water main break history. If you recall, in 2012, we did replace water main on a portion of Garcia Way where there was repeated break history. With the 2014 street reconstruction project, it's proposed to replace the remaining water main along Garcia Way because of the break history. Prior to starting work on this project, there was no recorded break history within that portion of Cedar Highlands that includes 170th Street, Georgetown Way, and Georgetown Court. But knowing the condition of the soils in the area, we did some additional soil testing and found that the soils within the remainder of this project area are corrosive in nature, and the existing water main pipe in this neighborhood is iron and susceptible to damage by the nature of the soils. So as a part of the street improvement project, it is proposed to replace all of the existing iron water main pipe in this area with plastic water main. In addition, there has been a concentrated water main break history along Flagstaff Avenue between Flagstaff Way and Dodd Boulevard. It's proposed that with the street improvement projects, that section of water main would be replaced as well. The soils in this area are not known to be corrosive, and so it would be proposed to replace the existing cast iron pipe with ductile iron pipe. In addition, we did speak a little bit about Flagstaff Avenue and potential traffic calming improvements. You may be familiar with some resident concerns over the past number of years regarding volume and speed of vehicles moving through that area. And at the August 1st neighborhood meeting that was held for the project, we received several more concerns from residents at that meeting regarding vehicle speeds. So a second neighborhood meeting was held on October 1st to speak with just those residents that are located along Flagstaff Avenue to talk about potential improvements that could be realized with the 2014 street improvement project. In addition, you may recall, back in 2012, some driver feedback signs were installed along Flagstaff Avenue, Those driver feedback signs were effective in reducing average vehicle speeds. However, the placement of the existing northbound driver feedback sign was temporary. There is a gas pipeline that exists along the east side of Flagstaff Avenue. The gas company did permit the city to temporarily install that driver feedback sign in its current location, but as a condition of that approval, the city did agree to relocate that driver feedback sign permanently as a part of the 2014 street improvements. And so that was something that would move to the west and away from the pipeline as a part of the 2014 street improvements. What was discussed with residents at the October 1st neighborhood meeting was bump outs along Flagstaff Avenue. And bump outs are essentially a physical feature that narrows the travel lane. It also narrows the perceived overall width of the roadway. Along Flagstaff Avenue, we have a lot of right-of-way. We have a very wide roadway right now. And right now we're lacking some of the trees that previously occupied the boulevard areas on the east side of the street. And so driving down Flagstaff, you feel like you have a very wide open space to travel at higher speeds. By narrowing the perception of the traveled lane widths, that's effective in reducing vehicle speeds. We would stripe the remainder of Flagstaff Avenue to allow for on-street parking and strategically place the bump outs so that residents would still have the benefit of parking vehicles or having their guest park vehicles on the street. Bump outs would be located at all intersections along Flagstaff Avenue. This would assist in not only narrowing the traveled lane widths, but also reducing the crosswalk width at the intersection of Jardine and 164th Street, which is used by a number of students walking to Parkview Elementary. While those bump outs at the intersections would be concrete, the mid-block bump outs would propose to be sodded. Those mid-block bump out locations would house the driver feedback signs and would be maintained by the adjacent property owners. This is an example of a bump out in Rosemont. This happens to be on 145th Street near an elementary school. There they did employ concrete bump outs at the intersections. The traveled lane width has been narrowed, but you can see the white striping there beyond the bump out still allows for on-street vehicle parking. This is another example from the city of Edina along Tracy Avenue. This happens to be near an elementary school. That's why you'll notice there's a posted speed limit sign of 25 miles per hour. That is because of the proximity to an elementary school. They did have issues with vehicle speeds in this particular area and employed something similar there where you can see the bump outs have been sodded and are maintained as boulevard in that particular area. In addition to bump out improvements, we did also speak with residents about sidewalk improvements to Flagstaff Avenue. Along Flagstaff Avenue, there are concrete sidewalks that measure approximately 48 inches in width. The city does currently plow these sidewalks in the winter months because of the proximity to Parkview Elementary. And the smallest equipment that the city owns to plow these sidewalks is 50 inches in width. So as you can imagine, there are some ongoing issues with sod adjacent to the sidewalk involved with the ongoing maintenance of the sidewalk during the winter months. That was a concern brought up by residents during the neighborhood meetings, both on August 13th and October 1st. And in response to that, it is proposed to replace those sidewalks with 60-inch sidewalks along both sides of Flagstaff Avenue. The sidewalk would remain in the same location, with the widening taking place on the street side of the existing sidewalk within the city right-of-way. In addition, we received feedback from residents about connecting the sidewalk that currently dead ends at Georgetown Way to Jardine Path. There is a 5-foot concrete sidewalk on the south side of 170th Street leading from Cedar Avenue to the easterly intersection with Georgetown Way. There is no connection to the sidewalk system that exists along Jardine Path, and so as a part of this project, it would be proposed to extend that sidewalk. Looking at the different assessments for the different project areas, there are different improvements based on the project area. In Niagara Village, which is a townhome development on the west side of Flagstaff Avenue, the curb and gutter is actually in decent condition, and so it is not proposed to replace all of that curb and gutter, just that's structurally deficient or otherwise holding water. And so while the streets would be completely reclaimed, some of the curb and gutter would remain. The estimated assessments for those particular townhomes is $1,083. Within Cedar Highlands 5th Edition, it is proposed to reconstruct the streets, but the impetus for the reconstruction is not the condition of the roadway surface, but rather the condition of the soils and the impact that those soils have on the ductile iron water main pipe that's in that area. Complete concrete gutter replacement would be necessary in order to replace the water main in this area. However, the existing street and curb and gutter is not in a condition where we'd otherwise be replacing it. There is also some storm sewer rehabilitation that's going to be necessary as a part of these improvements. The assessments to residents within Cedar Highlands 5th Edition are estimated at $1,924, and that assessment is calculated just taking into consideration the surface improvements that these residents would have otherwise incurred if it were not for the fact that water main replacement is needed in this area. This is a little snapshot of the pavement condition index for this area. As you can see, the streets within Cedar Highlands 5th Edition, which would include 170th Street, Georgetown Way, and Georgetown Court, were found to be in good condition based on a recent pavement rating. Those streets were constructed in the early 1990s. And again, if it not were for the need of the water main replacement in this area, we would not be looking at complete reconstruction, but rather something considered more routine, such as a mill and overlay. Garcia Way and 170th Street Court, which are part of Cedar Highlands 1st Edition, the pavement in that area is in worse condition and would have otherwise required replacement. And that brings us to the assessments for those streets within the rest of the project area where complete reconstruction is proposed. All of the concrete curb and gutter would be replaced. There would be spot sidewalk replacement outside of the Flagstaff area, or Flagstaff Avenue area, in addition to storm sewer improvements. And the estimated assessment for single-family units in that particular, or in those particular areas, is $4,471. And with that, I will turn it back to Mr. Petrie to talk a little bit about the project schedule.
Thank you, Ms. Heil. Mayor, members of the council, so here we are this evening on October 21st, asking the council to receive the feasibility report and set the public hearing date. With that, as we look at the schedule moving forward, the public hearing date would be on November 18th, and that's when the council would have an opportunity to order the project. As the council is aware from past year's street reconstruction projects, you can see the dates then that fall into line after that. After the first of the year and in early March, we'd be opening bids and computing assessments. On March 17th, then we'd be declaring the cost, and setting the assessment hearing. Assessment hearing would be at the second meeting in April, the second regular council meeting in April. At that same time, in the past, historically, what we've done, unless we have any issues at the assessment hearing, we typically award the construction contract at that same meeting in April. Construction would commence in May through the fall of the year, November, and then certifying assessments to the county in December of 2014. With that, the next steps that we're again asking you to consider this evening is accepting the feasibility report and setting the public hearing date for November 18th of this year for the project. And with that, both myself and Ms. Heil would be happy to stand for any questions.
Item number 7 was approved by the Lakeville City Council. Well, those were the highlighted items presented to the council at their October 21st, 2013 meeting. If you have any questions or comments regarding these agenda items, please feel free to call City Hall. The number is 952-985-4400. Thanks for watching this edition of Lakeville City Council Wrap-Up. Frozen ice in cube form does not possess a dangerous threat when in a glass. But put that same frozen ice on a street or as a coating of snow on a highway, and it does possess a real danger. In Minnesota in 2012, there was an average of 189 crashes per day. Don't let snow and ice-coated roads give you the slip. Slow down when driving this winter.